So from one day to the next, I just had a random optician's appointment. He just looked at my eye and said, go to the emergency room now. Your optic disc is massive. So he told me to go to the emergency room, and they said, you have very swollen optic discs and you need to be hospitalised in the neurology ward. I got diagnosed with, this was 5, basically I had too much fluids surrounding my brain, and I had intracranial hypertension, but extremely severe, and they said that I was 2 weeks away from irreversible blindness. And I walked into the hospital and they said I should have been passed out, I should have been projectile vomiting, I shouldn't have been walking or conscious. And they said I would have been blind, and there was nothing that technology could have done about it, because the disc touches the nerve, and once there's nerve damage, then there's blindness. So that night I was in the neurology ward in Hadassah. But they said that it's okay, because nowadays there's modern day treatment, and the treatment is pretty close to 100% effective. But obviously and what is pretty much 100% effective wasn't working at all for me. So I had procedures, they took the liquid out from my back twice, they used the medication, it didn't have any effect on me, and after a few, maybe close to a month, my vision did start to deteriorate. I did start to get just more and more blurriness, and I did start to get more and more ill from the procedures and things like that. And then the doctor said that, the doctor told me basically, he thought that I was a week away from blindness, total blindness. And then pretty much at that point I said, there's nothing that the doctors are saying. They were talking about brain surgery, which they said they weren't so confident about, and it's super high risk. So I said, it's in my hands basically. I have a child, a 1.5-year-old, who you might have seen running around. I can't never see his face again. I can't not see Flight Dash not come. Although I believe that was going to come within the next week. And Hadassah has got a beautiful view of coming towards Jerusalem. But it was in my hands, not the doctor's hands. So I decided that I was better. I decided to demand a miracle, and I decided to publicise the miracle that happened already. So I have a blog page on the Times of Israel, and everyone around me was super worried. All our families in England, and they were really worried, but I wasn't worried, because obviously everything was for the best. So I was just super calm, and I knew everything was going to be okay, but there's so much anxiety from all family and grandparents, friends, family. I could only encourage them to a certain extent that it was going to be okay. So finally I channeled that into an article, and I remember it was on a Wednesday. I had the whole set of tests and x-rays, and I wrote an article. I published it on the Tuesday night, and I said on my updates group, which had a link to all the Telegram group for me, and said, I'm going to be home after this test. They're going to, from this point of view, after all the medications and treatments, which they said was 100% effective, there had been not one single bit of progress, which the doctors, they told me they had never seen in modern day literature, and they had told me that my case takes them back to medieval times in terms of medicine. So even though there had been no progress, I published the article and I put on the updates group that I'm going to be home tomorrow night. And I hadn't seen my baby in 2 weeks at this point. The way you publish articles on the blog post is that you publish it to the Times of Israel, and they review it, and you get an email saying, oh, it's been published now. So I don't actually know when it's been published. So I sent it the night before, and when I was woken up in the morning by the hospital people, then I had gotten an email saying, oh, your article's been published. It's called Freedom and Fire. And then I sent the link to the article to my updates group, saying, I'm going down to my test now, to my x-rays, and usually I get the results. The doctor comes to your room with the results within an hour. So I said, I'm going down to my test now. This is an article I just wrote. I'm going to be home later tonight. Bring heaven down to earth. Right, it'll be harder right now. I'm on my way. But the miracle is going to happen. I'm going to be home tomorrow night. And I went down to the x-rays and I just felt incredible. I had my hands open at the time that like my eyes were being tested. I had my hands open and I was just breathing so, like, there's no words to describe how it felt, but I was just smiling away. I was like talking to all the technicians, like just giving them brachot, because I just felt like beyond anything I've ever experienced. I went back up, I didn't hear anything for the rest of the day. I was busy tidying my room because I was getting ready to go home. And the next day, the doctor came to the room saying, you can go home, come back for a review in 2 months. And I wasn't shocked, I was pumped. That's the reason why I can see. That's the reason why I started like my tambourines, my call to arms on Instagram. It's because it's the idea of a call to arms. It's to bring down the sparks from Miriam Hanabiah of celebrating a miracle in advance, because that is Bizkut Nashim and Tzedkaniot. That's the power of Hashem. He wants us to call to him and to bring a miracle in advance. And like with King Shlomo, he wanted him to start it, and then it said his temple was erected miraculously, but really Hashem wanted him to take the first step. So it was a miracle, but he still wants us to take the first step, and those two aren't a contradiction. So we can bring a miracle in advance, but at the same time it is still Hashem's will. And it's with that power and with that spark from Miriam Hanabiah that I really connected to, and that's the thanks that I have my vision to, and that's why I want to thank Hashem publicly in front of everybody for my vision. Thank you, Hashem.